Hey guys, Dr. Andy with AG Thrive, and I'm here today to talk about how to get out of a vicious cycle and how to create a virtuous cycle. I think we all can probably relate to, I know I certainly can, what it's like to get stuck in a vicious cycle, right? And oftentimes it happens without the conscious awareness. And so it's something that maybe you're realizing, after you've already gone down kind of this, the drain or the, kind of so to speak. But, a vicious cycle can be, you're feeling really negative, you're having negative thoughts, you're kind of being self-critical. And because you're feeling that way, you're giving off a vibe to the people, that you're interacting with, clients, family members, things like that. And so they react to you in a way, feeding off your energy. And so now you've had a bad interaction with them, which makes you then start to spiral down even more into thinking even more negative thoughts, and just creates this like really vicious cycle, right? Or, having bad habits, right? Staying up too late, snacking when you shouldn't. And so you start to, kind of snack on a food that is maybe less than optimal, and then you feel really guilty and awful, which then just makes it more likely that you're going to do the same thing, and so it creates this vicious cycle, right? And so, I think really it's a universal experience, but if we can find a way to try and identify and get out of that, or even better yet, if we can start to create a whole series of virtuous cycles, I'm sure that's something that all of us could really appreciate. And so that's what I'm hoping to achieve today, is just to help you, give you some tools or some different ideas of how to create virtuous cycles. So a virtuous cycle, obviously, is kind of the opposite of the vicious cycle. But one of the most profound or significant ways, I think, to achieve this is by really ramping up your experience of gratitude, right? Gratitude is definitely one of those kind of, I think it's a very catchy concept, and I think everybody's like, yeah, I know I should feel gratitude. I know for myself, if you had asked me a couple years ago, even a year and a half ago, what am I grateful for? Very easily, I could have sat down, I could have written a paper and given you 15 things that I'm all grateful for. But then if you had asked me honestly if I was really feeling gratitude, no, right? It was totally in my head. It was intellectual. It was one of those things that I know I should be grateful, but I don't think I really knew how to actually feel grateful. And it's definitely a very different experience. And so, one of the things that I've done is to do kind of the daily gratitude journal, right? Every day identify 3 things I'm grateful for. And I think the key to that is to get really narrow, to really specific, focus on specific things. So instead of saying I'm grateful for, my wife or my buddy, my kids, whatever, is to think of a very specific action that they did, that they do, that helps to just make it more real. And what I found in doing the daily gratitude journal is probably the first 20, 25 days I did it, it was still more of an intellectual exercise for me. But somewhere in that 22nd to 30th day, somewhere in that range, there started to be a transformation. I noticed that I started to actually feel. I was more connected in my heart and not so much just in my head. And once I started to feel it, it really was. It's like it just gave me kind of it lifted me up in a way that was really significant. And the more I felt it, the more it was easier for me to identify other things I was grateful for. And of course, the more that I was aware of what I was grateful for with my wife and my kids, they could see that. They could pick up on that energy, right? And when I'm looking at them with a grateful heart and kind of mind, they also start kind of feeding off that energy. And then I'm noticing even more things I'm grateful for. And it creates this really beautiful virtuous cycle where my interactions with my family and my kids, my clients, has, the qualitative aspect of that has gotten better. And then I'm even more grateful for noticing that. And because I've created that habit of daily kind of a gratitude journal, I can really almost at will, start to kind of really think about things that make me grateful and really connect with the emotional experience of that. And gratitude, I think they say gratitude and love are 2 of the most powerful, positive emotional experiences that we can experience. And you can't be grateful and angry at the same time. You can't be grateful and anxious. It's just not possible. It's different parts of the brain that are, lit up during that experience. And so it's a really great antidote or experience to eliminate, irritability, anxiety, anger, things like that. So that's one nice way to create a virtuous cycle, and really you could probably do that with a variety of, positive emotional experiences. The key is to try and make it a daily exercise, right? Find some cue. Is that, before I go to sleep at night, after I brush my teeth? Is it when I get in the car before I start the engine? Something that creates a cue, and then you do the behavior. But I think you really got to write it down. There's something about writing things down that's just way more impactful. And there's neuroscience involved with that. I don't need to get into all that right now, but there's a reason. It's not just, kind of an old school, you should write things down type thing. But when you take the time to write things down and you take the time to really pay attention to the details of, when you're happy, when you're grateful, when you're feeling moments of love, it really is potent and significant and meaningful. And I think the more you take time to really just be aware and mindful of feeling happy, feeling grateful, thinking that you're lucky, it also signals to the brain, hey, this is clearly important to you. Pay attention to more, things that make you feel grateful, happy, lucky, or whatever those things are. And again, that's what helps to really trigger that virtuous cycle. And if every day you're thinking of things that make you feel grateful, you also are likely to interpret what are really kind of neutral moments or events and interaction with someone that is really not necessarily good or bad, it just is. But you interpret through the lens of finding what's, that grateful moment in the interaction. And I hope that's a very practical thing that you can use to help you to start to really create some virtuous cycles and how to ramp that up. And how to get out of a vicious cycle. It really does start with an awareness. It starts with kind of a mindfulness and being willing to track, kind of your either thoughts or behaviors or habits, and then being willing to try and experiment with a new habit to create a virtuous cycle. I promise you that the result that you'll get out of that is absolutely worth it. And when you're in a virtuous cycle, again, it's certainly something to be grateful for. So again, virtuous cycle. It's something I wish for each one of you. It's something when I've noticed it in my own life, that has been a very pleasant and rewarding experience. So there you go. How to avoid or get out of a vicious cycle and turn it into a virtuous cycle. That's my little nugget to you from AG Thrive. Appreciate you listening and taking the time to watch this. If you get a chance to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you have any requests, would love to get your feedback. If you have any ideas for future content, please leave. I'd love for you to go visit the website at ag-thrive.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We've got a podcast that's coming out. We've got new social media pages for AG Thrive on Facebook and LinkedIn. Please visit us at any one of those and look for the content related to the psychology of thriving. All right, and I wish you guys all the best, and especially I wish you to thrive by design, by growing the life, love, family, and success you want. Thanks.